Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan for another Inside the Birds presented by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It's the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. Now, Adam, a lot of people might not be thinking about shore resorts anymore because I don't know, the weather's been a little chippy.
Oh,
Getting
been
to the end
great.
of August here, right? I know. I like the nippy weather. I'm all right with that. But
Oh, so good.
what it does is it heralds in the end of training camp, and training camp for
True.
the Eagles is
True.
officially over. They have a walkthrough today, another walkthrough Friday. That the media is not invited to that, and they have their pregame, their preseason game Saturday, in the weird 1 o'clock Saturday preseason game
Yeah.
against the Vikings, right? And then after that, they get into regular season mode. So training camp, as we know it, it's over.
Yeah, because I was going to go Thursday because they originally were going to have a short practice, uh, which should be 2 days before the game, have the walkthrough on Friday, but they're having back-to-back walkthroughs, which is odd. But I'll say this much. When we said training camp before training camp started, Eagles are going to practice a lot more this season, we had no idea that it was going to be like, I don't think they had to practice less than an hour and 20. And Wednesdays is an hour and 52. They're generally the link one was like 2:20, 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, good for Nick. And I know they're big on sports science in that building, but give Sirianni credit to understand, like, when you have a collapse like they did, you got to look at everything. And some of it, let's be honest with you, you and I would make fun of them. Hey, it worked 2 years ago when we saw them have a 44-minute practice. They kept doing it last summer. Not anymore. So they're clearly flipping the script a little bit, and they're looking at everything.
Yeah, they certainly expanded their practices. We thought that was necessary, especially for the newness of the team. And we've expanded as well here at Inside the Birds. I hope everybody, I just want to take a second, recognizes first, we'll thank the Eagles for recognizing that Inside the Birds has become a force in Eagles coverage. And by doing so, this was the first year that we were able to get Andrew DeCecco a full seasonal pass, and he has done. And so this is my second thank you, our second thank you to Andrew DeCecco. He covered every single Eagles training camp practice. I thought he did a fantastic job. His observations were spot on, and he's putting a lot of work in. So he did a fantastic job with our website, not only providing the daily observations, but I mean, he wrote about 2 stories on top of that a day just on, interesting guys like Patrick Johnson and, Isaiah Rogers most recently on InsideTheBirds.com. And Andrew will be continuing to be covered. We're going to announce our coverage schedule for the season pretty soon because we're getting close to the season. We're just ironing some things out. But we can assure all our listeners that we're bringing some new things to the platform, the mainstream platform, not just Patreon. We're bringing some new things also to the platform this season. And I'm excited. We'll have a chance to announce it when everything's finalized.
And by the way, Andrew, special thanks to Andrew showing up on for us on Patreon once, and you, me, and Andrew. It was really cool
Yeah.
because we got into a lot of stuff on a Wednesday night. That was a sellout crowd. That was cool.
Yep.
Man, I wish we had a sports bar where we could, because a lot of the Patreon members are not from, they may have grown up here, but a lot of them are across the country. So it's not like we can get everyone together at the same time in person, but it was cool to see a lot of people.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be like the future of ITB. We'll invest in some place, a shop that's been given up, and we'll take it over and turn it into Inside the Bird Sports
Oh,
Bar. And
well, Chickies and Pete's are my
Adams
old
and
friend.
Jeff's.
Yeah, like my old friend Pete Shiraki. I should talk to him from Chickie and Pete's to see what.
Yeah, give us some
So,
advice.
yeah, he would know. Look, he put Chickies and Pete's in where the Chiefs play. I think. Pretty certain
Yes,
of it.
he did. There's a Chickies and Pete's in a lot of places now.
Vegas too,
I think
right?
there's one in like Hilton Head. They're all over the
Yeah.
place now. Yeah.
I think in Vegas too.
Yep, I think there's one in Vegas.
Yeah,
So pretty good
pretty good.
stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just wanted to let you know we got a lot of extra content coming to the Inside the Birds YouTube and podcast platform, and of course we're expanding Andrew's role going into this year too. And just wanted to thank him for doing an unbelievable job here so far throughout training camp. So in this podcast, we're going to get into a few things on offense that we've learned here as of late and observed, a few things on defense, and then obviously after the Eagles play their preseason game on Saturday. The cut down is Tuesday to 53. But as we've seen in recent years, Adam, and my gosh, they've even started. We'll get into a transaction here in a second.
Yeah.
There'll probably be cuts as soon as Sunday, Monday. Yeah, they'll start cutting.
Oh yeah. So what would happen is they have a general idea of who they're going to cut, or they have a general idea because they're going over their depth charts every day in training
Mhm.
camp. They have a general idea who's probably not going to make it, and they have to get through the Saturday game, as you mentioned, which is just 2 days from now. They go through that tape Sunday morning. Then they start calling the Turk, usually the pro director will bring the player, they bring your playbook, whatever. It's not always a pro director; it could be someone even lower than that, but a lot of times it's the pro director. And anyway, so then they'll call the agent, and the agent tells the reporter, you and I've been through this,
Yep.
it's the old game. But and then yeah, they don't wait. Teams don't wait anymore. The only team that did it was the Patriots. Belichick would do it for a couple years, and he stopped doing it, and he just like we were talking about, he would just cut. They'd just start telling the players who were going to be the first ones off. It is interesting though, like 4 or 5 names might leak out Monday morning. Like it's just interesting how they wait and wait and wait. And I just remember the one that stunned us. What did we miss on that one? Josh Sills. Like now we did the off the field thing is another thing, but no one knew about. But
Mhm.
just the fact that he was initially going to make it, I swear we never talked. Maybe we talked about a guy once at training camp.
Maybe.
Right,
Maybe.
exactly. And no one knew about it.
Right.
Just out special and bothered the Colts just cut him.
Yeah. How about that?
But it's
I'm
just
surprised they
yeah.
don't have Big Dom make the cuts now. I mean, with all the
Oh God,
titles
he's
that
such a
they given him.
celebrity.
Hey, go see Dom and bring your
Right,
playbook.
exactly. Well,
But
who knows? Maybe just to make sure everybody's safe and they don't get, no one's getting punched. Maybe he does that. Who knows?
what
But yeah,
happened? I
it's.
got whacked.
Oh, by the way, it's this Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. One year it was 6 o'clock. They moved to 4 p.m.
Right.
Which is, by the way, the deadline for transactions every day is 4 p.m. Eastern. So then the waiver got. So what'll happen is if they clear waivers on Tuesday, the guys they want on the practice squad, they'll already have this worked out. They tell the agent, "Hey, if it clears, we want your guy back." It's kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod that this is going to happen, and that's what happens. And boy, this preseason game is fascinating. We'll get into this in a minute because who do you play, who don't you play, who do you want to try to hide? It's interesting.
Oh, I think it is definitely fascinating. All right. There's one transaction we'll talk about
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah.
And the Eagles already waived, cut,
Cut. Yeah.
CJ Uzomah, he was a veteran,
Vested
tight
veteran.
end.
Yep.
Yeah, and a little bit of a surprise because we felt with
This early, jeez.
you did mention, yeah, surprise when it happened. You did mention last pod as we were trying to figure out some numbers that his contract did make it. It's not like it was so absorbent that they couldn't cut him.
Small.
But then
Yeah.
we thought, who would be your tight end? So your wide tight end who could block alongside Dallas Goedert, especially if Dallas would get hurt. So
Correct.
to me,
Yep.
Adam, this leaves the door open for two different scenarios. And the scenario that I see happening, I think my sense would be you called it in May when you did your 53-man roster projection. Sort of called
Okay.
it.
Okay.
You had Uzomah making it, but you only felt the Eagles would keep two tight ends. And I was like,
Yes.
that's crazy risky. But I'm starting to think putting two
I
and
got the
two
wrong guy.
together.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to keep here's how I see it happening.
Okay.
You keep Goddard, obviously. You keep Calcaterra as your number two. You try to bring back Uzomah if you can on your practice squad.
Yep.
But I think the key factor in all this is the fact that EJ Jenkins had a pretty good camp and he's 6'6", 260. And I thought in the last preseason game, especially, I know he got hurt, came back in, I think. You started to see that he can block a little bit. Now, so my two theories are, one is that they make sure that they get him back on the practice squad after they waive him. And I think you can probably get EJ Jenkins through. And
You
then
would
you
think.
activate him for the first 3 weeks, while you can from the practice squad. Or number two is maybe he makes the 53 and that's your third tight end. But I'm starting to think you were right on this, that they keep two tight ends and just arm themselves with Jenkins and Uzomah on the practice squad to be able to be there on game day.
And honestly, the big reason why I thought they would only keep two tight ends is because we knew that they have a lot of inside backers. Now we could debate how good they are, but they have a lot of players. And they're not cutting Dean, obviously. They're not going to cut. I don't see them cutting Devin White. He's got the most snaps at inside backer. They like Bond's versatility. They want to try to develop him, see what happens.
Mhm.
Van Sermon's a supreme special teams player. He's the fastest linebacker they have. You know they're going to probably keep 5. You know that's happening. Corner, they're super deep. They're super deep. But I thought Uzomah, because he's a wide tight, he's there specifically to block. I thought he'd be over Calcaterra.
Right.
Calcaterra, just checking, he's not highly thought of around the league. He's just teams don't have that. They can't watch Eagles practice if they don't realize how good he's doing. They wouldn't know that. They would know
Mhm.
maybe for listening to the show, but Calcaterra had a great offseason. There's no question.
Right.
And they saw him and Jack Stoll 2 years ago when Goddard got hurt. They did a good job. They weren't Goddard, but they did. There was a drop off, obviously, but it wasn't as steep as you would think. Like the Eagles' third receiver job, that's a big drop off from AJ to Devontae. Not only is it in talent, but it's because no one really, other than Covey, had a great camp.
Mhm.
He's very small. Whereas you could Calcaterra, and you've been on this the last couple of weeks about him being their third receiver. I'm starting to think he's going to be their third receiver.
In certain packages, yes.
Yeah,
I think you're gonna
yeah,
see that 11 personnel disguised as 12, or 12 personnel disguised as 11 personnel,
I see that.
with
I'm
Calcaterra in the
telling
slot.
you,
Mhm.
because Covey, he's been by far the best backup catcher receiver. He's been really good. Like you and I've seen this. We were at his first practice ever, and we were like, "Wow, this kid from Utah, who the Eagles loved, they were on him that fall." We were told.
Mhm.
I gotta give the guy, whether it's Howie or their college, whoever, I don't know who that has that area, but that's a damn good job of scouting.
Yeah.
And now he's one of the best punt returners in the NFL. In fact, it's to the point now that, and he only got a 2-year deal. Whatever his latest, whatever he has is I'm looking at it right now, is 2 years.
Mhm.
So it's to the point now where I don't know how, because he's been so good as a receiver, he's got to be the punt returner. Here's my question to you: is he's so small? How much do you want him to play on
Well,
offense?
that's why I think, and we'll talk about the third wide receiver situation a little bit. I don't think you're going to have a guy who is your full-time slot receiver. You're not going to
Hmm.
have a Jason Avant. You're not going to have a Nelson Aguilar. I think you're going to wind up seeing different guys in different packages. Don't and yeah, we'll get to it because we're going to talk about third wide receiver a
Yeah,
little bit.
it's coming up. Okay.
You know, but I do think it's going to be a varied package there. And I will say, I would read into it that the cutting of Uzama this early sort of validates one of our concerns about him, was that yes, we know he can block, but is he out of gas? I mean, he started to look like he was out of gas with the Jets. Um, and at that point, if you can play, but you're not really impacting the game other than blocking a little bit, well, then you're sort of a dime a dozen as far as tight ends go. And so I'm sure they think that if they want him back, they can probably bring him back on the practice squad if he doesn't go somewhere else, or somebody of that similar ilk will get waived or cut. They'll be able to get a caliber player of CJ Uzama
And
at some point.
and one of the things, yes, I agree with you. One of the things we're going to continue to say, we've talked about the last couple of weeks, is the 69 man roster, 53 man plus 16 of your practice squad. That's perfect for the guys like Uzama. If he wants to win, Eagles are going to win the division. I'm going to go out on a small limb. No one's repeated since '04. I'm using those odds.
You're just going with history alone,
I'm
right?
just going with
Like,
the
yeah.
the chalk. Yeah, you go with the chalk. But no, but the bottom line is, EJ Jenkins is the guy who's the other day when I was at practice, I forgot how big he is, and I know he's put some mass on his frame. This is a guy I would want to develop. I agree
Yeah,
with your
he's
point, though.
260. Yeah, so he's a big
Crazy. He's
dude.
a former receiver, by the way.
Right. Right.
And Monty Rogers unfortunately got here too late. And Albert O is hurt right now. I know they wanted to give him a chance. He got hurt. I mean, they could sneak him through they could. He's not. I don't think he's vested, is he? Let me see. He
No.
was 2021. He's actually, yeah, he is vested.
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah, because he was drafted in 2020. If he got, yeah, he's vested. He would not be subject to waivers. He'd be contract terminated. Just work it out with the agent. To
Yeah.
me, he's not earning a roster spot. Sorry.
Yeah. By the way, didn't Logan Thomas, the former
He
Washington
got
tight
cut.
end,
Yeah,
get
he's
cut
way
too?
up there. Yeah,
But
he's
that's
way
my
up.
point, is that there are going to be a bunch of these guys.
Yeah, exactly. That was your point
Yeah.
you made earlier. Yeah,
Right.
there are going to be some older veterans out there. I don't. Well, and again, when we drop the next show on Monday morning, Yeah, I can tell you right now, I'm only putting 2 on there. We'll see if I'm right or not. I'm not putting Kevin Folish. Is that how you say it? Folish?
Kevin Folsch.
Folsh? Okay, yeah. I should have
Can't
asked the
spell
Jets when I
can't
saw them
spell Folsch
Wednesday.
without Foles. Remember
Folsh, yeah.
that.
F-O, yeah, exactly. Well, technically, if you remove the CH, it's F-O-E-L-S. Yeah, Foles, the other
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, but you got all the letters that you need to spell Foles. That's
Yes,
all I'm
what a
saying.
name. Yes.
So yeah, that's how I see that
Okay.
shaking. All right. So we'll move on. That was the big transaction there. We don't have to go through every single injury because some of
No.
these guys they're hurt, but they're not going to play in the game anyway, and it doesn't matter. Or
I mean,
they're nursing
honestly,
and stuff.
right. The only ones, it's not concern for week 1, but Johnny Wilson concussion.
Yeah.
They have another player who's got a concussion. You're always worried about that. And then,
Yeah,
Trevor
John
Keegan.
Ross.
John
John
Ross,
Ross
yeah.
is the other one. Yeah.
Right, right. It's going to be hard for him to make it. Yep, that was the other one. And Trevor Keegan with the hip. He had some teams had problems with his shoulders for the draft from a medical standpoint. So we'll see. But there's been no problem with his upper body that we know of here. And his issue is he's only been a left guard,
Right.
but he was drafted. He's
Man,
had a
I'm sorry. I feel bad for these Michigan guys because I think that they're sort of like now how Alabama guys used to be.
Mhm.
When the
Oh
guys
yeah,
who
yeah,
played
yeah.
for Harbaugh, they just, I mean, McCarthy's hurt. Keegan came in with that reputation. Now he's banged up a little bit. I mean, Quiddy Pay got hurt right away, right? Then Ojabo got hurt at his
That
pro.
was
It just
terrible.
seems
The
like
pro day, right?
yeah, pro day. I mean, I feel like the Michigan guys get
Well,
beat up big
okay,
time.
who is the corner?
Oh, Roman Wilson got hurt for a little while with the Steelers, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
has a high ankle, I'm told.
yeah.
Although he's not too far away. But um, who was the corner, the first round corner from Alabama, who came in hurt, and all he did is get hurt? What was it?
Milner? No, that
You
wasn't
got
him.
it, D.
Yeah,
Milner. Nice
yeah,
call, D.
yeah.
Milner. That was
Those
it.
linebackers too, they were getting hurt a lot when they were coming out. Didn't Barron get hurt earlier in his career, in his
Mark
NFL
Barron. Well,
career?
he got hurt earlier. He was a safety. Then remember he played inside backer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Michigan practices that way, and
Yeah,
I mean it's great. I mean they win, they won the
we'll
championship,
see.
but I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
it comes with a price tag on your body apparently.
But they're no other than finding out what exactly Sidney Brown. I'm just looking at guys who are questionable, thinking like they may not be available for week 1.
Hmm.
Even if Sidney Brown comes off PUP in the next 2 weeks, how could he possibly play in week 1?
No, yeah. At this point, I thought he'd be off by now. I'm surprised he's not, but they're taking the cautious
Yeah,
approach.
they should, because if you're not going to be ready, let him. I don't know if see the PUP. We'll talk more about this on Monday, for Monday's show. But the PUP rules change. It used to be 6 games, now it's 4.
Hmm.
So the roster gymnastics with IR, because if you put the guy on IR now, you can't play. If you just wait, if you hold him until the 53, then he's not out for the season. He could be out short-term IR. There's
Right.
some roster manipulation. So anyway,
All right, so let's pause real quick to hear a word from our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right, so let's get into the offense here. The passing game, I want to start with quarterback and passing game. So Jalen Hurts finally threw an interception.
Yeah.
For the last practice to throw an interception.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the people who chart the stats probably can write that one down. And now we've got apparently a history book for training camp practices going on, right?
It's funny. I was there. I saw it. He was now he technically got sacked on the play because they would have called a sack.
Right.
But I don't know that he knew it. I mean, he went for the play. He was late on the throw, and Slate undercut it. It had to be out earlier. I mean, it happens. It's training
Right.
camp. I've learned more than ever traveling these camps. You got to be careful. Like Kenny Pickett's a perfect example last summer. He was phenomenal last summer. Okay, even the harshest critics with the Steelers would tell you that they're like, wow, okay, this is great. They were happy because Pickett was doing well. He had a great offseason. He put some bulk on his frame last year and did well. Tomlin plays their starters
Mm-hmm.
a lot in the preseason. He was just great where they thought maybe he'd have a breakout season. He didn't.
Right.
So I've learned just take it for what it is. If a guy's doing well, that's great. Make a note of it. Don't think it's going to carry over. Off season's AA. preseason training camp is AAA, regular season is majors. So
Yeah.
let's just put it in proper perspective.
I think that's great. You know, I was having a conversation with someone about this, and the thing about training camp, I think we talked about this even with Andrew earlier. You know, there's so much that comes out of it from the media in reporting, and 75 to 80% of it tends like observations tend to be positive, right? But because you can only go off what you see. But
Yep.
unlike a game where if a quarterback completes 10 straight passes, you don't you're happy. You move the ball, you're going to get points,
Yeah.
right? In practice, especially when you're learning, you can, and this has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts. This has to do with any quarterback, any offense, right? Quarterback can complete 10 straight passes and everybody's going to write, hey, good day, awesome day, ball never hit the ground, right? But what they're going to do after practice, and this is important for people who are listening to like really understand how this works at training camp. What everybody's going to do is the coaches are going to go watch tape, players are going to watch tape, then they're going to get together and watch it together, right? And they're going to go through every play and say, did you do the right thing on that play? So yeah, for a quarterback, you might have completed a beautiful 8-yard pass to a running back in the flat or a tight end running a quick out, and it could have been on time, deliver spiral, beat the defender, great coverage. But was that where the play was designed to go? Was that where the ball was designed to go? If it wasn't, if there was an open receiver, the coach is going to say, you did a good job of getting the ball there, but the play is designed to go here. This is where we want you to go with the football. And that's something that can't be because media or fans there, they don't know who's supposed to get the football, not supposed to know, right? And so that is the only thing I would caution on people on, like completion percentage or this or that. I think it's great that Jalen's protected the ball. I think that's really important. I think it's great he's generally thrown the ball, you know, like not behind, good ball placement.
But accurate, yeah.
What none of us can know is, or what we can only go by what people tell us is the ball more often than not going where it's supposed to go. Fair enough?
Right. Well, accuracy is one thing, but is he driving the football downfield? The one thing that's been noticeable, and I've been to not all their practice, I've been to most of them, but we know what's going on. So they've not been driving the ball downfield, and I could tell you from people work with Kellen, he puts it on the entire field. Like he opens it up, man. And that's the thing. I didn't see them super opening it up, and it just may be training camp. It's hard to answer that because we don't, it's not like we're watching the tape with the coaches, so we don't know, but I just know from people who work with Kellen, that ball's going everywhere across you and I know that Keenan Allen was having the career, like he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Keenan Allen, before he got hurt, it was ridiculous, particularly after Mike Williams got hurt with the Chargers last season, because they were running out of receivers. And boy, they were moving Keenan Allen everywhere. And I was with the Chargers 2 days last summer. As someone with the Chargers told me, most vertical training camp this guy said he's ever seen. This is 1 year. They didn't know Kellen Moore, this personal guy. I mean, they were happy to have him. And Mike Williams is their best deep threat, got hurt. Guyton, who's another guy, was coming back from a major knee injury. And Kellen couldn't run the offense like he wanted. So we'll see. I mean, the downfield's got to be in this offense. Has to be.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you have, 2 wide receivers who can stretch the field and a tight end who can stretch.
Yeah, vertical. He's a vertical tight end. Hell yeah.
And I think most people will tell you, Adam, like you can see certain things in training. This is why we don't get too high, too low about things in training camp, right? Because again, we saw
unless it's obvious.
We see it, right. We saw throws to the running back all training, and then they just disappeared, right? So
DeAndre Swift, hello.
You're really not going to know exactly, right? You're really not going to know until they start playing games. Season opener against the Packers, how this offense is really going to function and going to look. Until they start playing consecutive snaps against the defense that is absolutely aiming to do what they do. Vic Fangio's got 2 goals right now in training camp. Get his players to understand what he wants to do and then also execute that against the Eagles offense. And they go hand in hand. He's clearly going to do things in practice that he thinks is going to take away what Kellen Moore is trying to do, because that's the whole point. But the point is to work more on your players learning your system and doing what you need them to do. When they play Green Bay, who's their new defensive coordinator? Jeff Halfley, right? That's
Halfley,
the name.
yeah, who's running
He's
now
not trying to
43.
teach his guys stuff, right? He's trying to eliminate Jalen Hurts and
Yeah.
AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and it's a totally different outcome there and a totally different approach. So we won't really know. That's just what I just want, because I kind of got the feeling people were getting like, oh wow, like this whole interception the streak was taking on a life of its own. And I don't care if he's got 3 interceptions. One might bounce off somebody's hand. Like to me,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
context, man.
What should
one of the
matter
reasons-
is, are you running the offense the way it's supposed to be run?
Exactly,
That's what Kellen
exactly.
Moore cares about.
Because last year the offense was not run the way it should have been. I mean, let's
Right.
And there were a lot of reasons for it. It wasn't just the quarterback; it was
Right.
coaching. Everybody had a hand in it. But the reason why I stopped after I think 5 or 6 years, I stopped charting practice because it was too hard for me to make a notation. Okay, where was that throw? Like in baseball, you could, if you're charting a game, there should, you can make notes. It's hard at football practice. I don't have a board. I don't have a cardboard cutout. Okay, where's throw 1? Where's throw 2? I don't have that ability. I just gave up after a series of years because I really wanted because I wanted to learn the game. Because no one told me how to chart. No one told me what to do. Go to practice. I didn't really know anyone when I first started covering the league in 99, 2000. I just go and chart it. Okay. 5 years I did that. And then after a point, I'm like, what am I learning? I don't know what the guy was 20 for 23. What was the throw? The only time I knew was when Brady was 25 for 25 and every throw was with anticipation against the Eagles here in training camp. He made the receiver go get it. I said, I don't need to chart it. That was 25 for 25. The best training camp practice I've seen in my life was Brady. As good as Hurts was 2 years ago in practice, Wentz was phenomenal in 17. One practice, that's all I needed to see. Brady, I was like, this is
that was like a
crazy.
different level.
Oh,
right.
Really cool,
and we, listen, we experienced this year after year. You and I were down in Miami a couple of years ago.
Oh,
and
I know where you're going.
Watched the offense just basically dink and dunk, and we're like, this is not a functional. This is just, but in retrospect and with better context, the way the Dolphins were just blitzing on every play and blitzing and coming at him and trying all this stuff, the Eagles were doing the right thing. And conversely, I remember a practice where Mark Sanchez was amazing. Mark Sanchez, Eagles quarterback, was just peppering the field with throw after throw after throw. And I'm like, wow, he's having such a great practice. And then I, looked into it. Someone was like, he's really just throwing it underneath, in areas where he's giving up better plays just to have his completion percentage look good. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it. All right. So that's why this stuff can be deceiving. And
and
really
with
know a goat's game.
Yes, with Tanner McKee, people are going out of their minds. He should be the number 2. Tanner McKee, most of his snaps are against the 3s, and you got to understand like that. That's the context,
right?
We know for a fact he's had a really good camp. That's why they did the unorthodox thing, is giving him some work with the 2s, which is just really rarely done. And look, the kid's definitely improving. His mobility is way better, which got him almost a bunch of teams we talked with didn't have a draftable grade because they thought he's a statue. He doesn't look like a statue to me anymore. He's rolling out. I mean, he doesn't have great feet in terms of rolling.
But good enough. Yeah,
it's getting better. Getting better, But again, context is everything, as Eric Bischoff says on his show, or 8 Weeks, context is king.
So let's move that on then with the function of the offense to that slot receiver spot, or the number 3 receiver. These are not the same conversations. I think people need to understand. Yes, the Eagles have an issue right now with slot receiver to the point where they're probably going to have to use packages. It could be Calcaterra, where it's 12 personnel that they're disguising as 11 personnel, right? Could be Britton Covey, when you probably want a little bit more juice on a 3rd and 5 and you need somebody who can separate, and Covey's done a nice job separating. Johnny Wilson, don't forget about him just because he's had a concussion. He's a big body. It was interesting. I didn't even realize this, but he was known as a perimeter force, as a blocker at Florida State. Remember, at Florida State, he played outside. The Eagles have worked him inside because they saw great blocking ability out of him, and that's a big part of playing in the slot. But the reason why you and I still sit here and say this is a dangerous situation for them and very thin, even though they have different options here, is because your 3rd receiver has got to be able to play outside functionally in case one of your top 2 guys gets hurt. And right now, it's bleak if you're getting an injury to AJ Brown or Devontae Smith.
And to be clear, just so, because there's some people saying, well, Of course there's going to be a drop off. Yes, we've talked about this 100 times. We know there's going to be a drop off, but we've used the example of Calcaterra and Stoll 2 years ago. Yes, there was a drop off, but it didn't kill them to not have Goddard. They found a way to make it work. It's going to be hard. Johnny Wilson's issue is separation. Okay, that's his issue. It's been his issue. It's a tape. It's a tape thing. I know this for a fact. Okay, talked to a lot of area scouts, but in the open field, he's pretty darn good. I mean, he runs better than you think, but you got to be able to get open. And Covey, who's 5'8", maybe 178 soaking wet, holding an anvil in his hand, he's just small,
Right.
but he's got great quicks. But he's not Avant. He's not strong enough.
Right.
Just you got to get open. You got like if they, it's a problem. I mean, it's been a problem. It's going to be a problem. You've been talking about Calcaterra for a while, maybe potentially being like a third receiver when they go 12 personnel, but just using them as a slot. Certainly a lot of teams do that. So it's not uncommon. Some teams do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, there are teams that have functional backup outside wide receiver. And God, it seems like a million years ago, but this year they were hoping that Devontae Parker was going to fill that role, and that made
God, I
sense,
forgot about
right?
him.
Because Devontae's not a slot receiver. He
No,
would have
he's
been an
outside only.
ideal guy. Like Justin Ross comes in for the Chiefs when they had an injury, and he's functional. Caught a couple touchdowns, right?
Big.
Had
Yeah.
some games, yeah.
Yeah. He can run.
You brought up a guy that we talked about, but not in this pod, but last time it was Alan Lazard. You're talking about as a functional guy. who
By
can
the
play-
way,
yeah.
okay, he's their 4. The Jets feel like he's had a great camp. His mind's right. He struggled just with a bunch of things last year, but obviously getting his guy Aaron Rodgers back, it helps. On your point, he could take it away here, but he could help you as a 4.
Yeah.
Kind of where you're going. Go ahead, finish it off.
So right now it feels like the guy that's most suited for that, if he's healthy, is Paris Campbell, because he's really should be an outside receiver who can play inside. But that's hard to really, again, not just for injuries, but as you mentioned last year, he basically didn't play out of performance reasons. So they need. It feels like, and listen, you can get someone like this, but as we understand it, the Eagles are not going to be hunting at wide receiver for someone who's got any kind of legit salary. So they're going to either have to sign a veteran on a 1-year deal with very little guaranteed, or make it work with what they got. I get the sense that they're just going to try to make it work with what they got.
Well, yeah, but again, that's where the 69-man roster comes in. You got a practice squad. Now we'll go over the rules on Monday morning, because you can start signing guys on Wednesday. But
I don't feel like there'll be a guy, even if it's a veteran, a guy that gets cut that's going to excite anybody. It's not going to be a guy who's any more than what Paris Campbell is.
Yeah, well, Lazard, just for the record, Lazard's not going anywhere. He's making $10 million fully guaranteed.
Right.
But he's a good example of the type of guy could be. Let's say it's a guy who is going to cost some veteran minimum. See, there are going to be some veterans who are cut. All you do is you say to the guy, listen, do you want to go to the playoffs? Do you want to play with Jalen Hurts? Look at these 2 guys, our starting receivers. You got a chance to win. We got a great staff, great offense with Kellen Moore. You sell them on it, but they're not going to make any money. On your point, there's a way. There'll be guys who are cut that you can bring in who are willing to be on a practice squad.
I just came up with an awesome name.
All right,
Julio Jones.
No, but okay. Last year, who was their 4?
Right.
Who's their
right? That's my point. Is last year
Lazard
the Eagles knew they had the same problem, right? That's why they signed Zacchaeus. A guy who could play inside outside, give you functional play, and then that's why they also signed Julio Jones. This year, again, like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about Paris Campbell. I don't think John Ross is going to make it. We'll see, but even so, I don't know if he's shown enough to say, like, okay, we can win 2 games. If we miss Devontae Smith for 2 games, can we plug John Ross in the outside? I don't think you see
that, and that's what I said the last show. Don't worry about the drop off. They can't duplicate AJ Brown or Devontae Smith.
Right.
Just bring in a veteran or 2 that could, if needed, along with Johnny Wilson and whatever he can give you in Covey, where you could Jimmy rig it enough where the guy, you're functional. Is a coaching term. Could you be functional like they were 2 years ago when Goddard went out and Calcaterra and Stoll filled in, because Stoll was more of the Y and Calcaterra was the move tight end.
Yeah.
Was the F. So yeah, I mean, there's things you can do.
Who was the fourth receiver on the Super Bowl team? I'm trying to remember because they had Torrey Smith,
Oh, and
Aguilar
17. Oh,
inside.
and 17.
Yeah, they had the first the Super Bowl team that won. It was I can't even remember the
Oh,
two outsiders.
Matt Collins was their designated 9-route runner, if you
Yeah, I
remember.
thought he was their fifth. Didn't they have
Well,
a
Marcus Johnson got hurt. He kept getting hurt. It was Smith, Nelly. Nelly's the 3.
Nelson Aguilar was the
Yeah.
3. He was the slot.
Mac was
Torrey
the
Smith
4.
was outside.
Yeah, Mac was their 4. And Shelton Gibson was on that team. He didn't really do much. Yeah.
There was somebody else. I guess they had no injury, so they were able to withstand that they didn't maybe have great depth at wide receiver. Oh, Alshon. So Alshon was 1.
Yeah,
Torrey
Alshon,
was 2.
Torrey.
Nelson was 3,
Yeah.
and
Mac was the 4th.
it really was. I guess so. They didn't really have a
Yeah.
great outside option in the back.
Remember,
They did have
Mac,
good 3 tight ends there.
right? Mac was a special teams ace,
Yep.
and he was the designated 9-route runner. That's really all
You know
he
what,
did.
Mac? Yeah, Mac actually caught 200.
still
Mac
playing.
actually had a decent year for a rookie that year. Yeah.
He actually did, right? He was the explosive guy. Was it Washington? He schooled him like deep. He killed him.
Yes.
Like, 9-route. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So I mean, listen, maybe a guy like Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith develop a little bit, but I would feel a little bit better if they had a reliable outside receiver backup who had some inside versatility.
Well, ideally it will be
Ideally.
Paris Campbell, but I
Yes.
just don't know after what we learned. And
Right.
Paris kind of confirmed it. He
Yeah.
lost his confidence and whatever.
Right.
So I here's what I think. We'll move on a second. I believe they thought Austin Watkins, as a lot of people thought, would have a role. Now, I'm not saying he won't be on the roster right now. It doesn't look like it. He wouldn't be on my 53 for Monday unless we find something out over the weekend.
Mhm.
We'll see. But because of what he had done with other teams, he's been on. This is his 4th team, but he's put some tape together, and he's a sort of a young journeyman. There's some talent there, but it just doesn't happen for him.
Yeah. All right, let's finish off the offense, which is the offensive line. And, we don't have to beat a dead horse. We said this last podcast, right? You got your starting 5. If Steen is a backup at 6, and if Keegan is a backup at 7, a rookie, right?
Yeah.
He is, right? And you've got
Fred.
McMahon, who you drafted, right? That's 8. So right now you're 8 deep here, but your first 3 guys off the bench, just who you're
Fred
keeping.
Johnson. Fred's 9.
Right, Fred Johnson, 9. So Fred has probably the most starting experience out of everybody. You have 0 starts out of Keegan. You have 0 starts out of McMahon and 1 out of Steen. So that's not the typical Eagles, where you have a bunch of veterans. And so if those are 9, the 3 I mentioned plus Johnson is 9, then you really got it's either Toth or Darian Kennard at 10.
Toth is making it. Toth is.
It does feel like Toth is making it.
It's definitely making
every
it.
position.
Yeah.
And Toth has played 1 NFL game, if I'm not correct, 1 or 2, right?
Well, it's interesting is he's a vested veteran. Despite it's weird because he was signed by the Eagles in 2019. He's been on and off rosters like his whole career.
Right.
But he's a vested veteran, and he's been the backup center. And he said it. He's got 5 position versatility. He talked about it this past week, I think, or a week and a half ago about
right.
The challenges of playing so many positions. And then now Nick Gates all of a sudden got work with the ones that filling in. Some first team snaps. He's got plenty of starting experience. He's done that really good deal with Washington. And then the new front office said, we don't want him. So they cut him because they were allowed to.
Right.
But he all of a sudden, when he signed here, he was getting 13 reps for a week and a half. And now he's moving up. You never know.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at Fred Johnson. Apparently he's played 45 career games, including 17 last year with the Eagles. I guess that's because he goes in there for field goals or goal line or whatever. Because I don't remember Fred Johnson playing in 17 games last year. So it must be like he's like that extra tackle when you get the field goal kick or something like that. He's got 2 starts. 8 starts in his career. Right. So the Eagles, who are usually historically very good at having guys who can get in there and help you out because they've got some experience, right? Oh, I have a ton of that now as far as starting experience or game experience other than Fred Johnson.
And honestly, Hennessy would have been that guy. I mean, the belief was he was going to be their top backup center guard. He's just not had a good training camp. Unfortunately, he's hurt right now.
Right.
So yeah, it coming into camp, it seemed like we didn't know this Becton thing. We'll touch on it in a minute. We didn't know that Toth was going to be the backup center. It's just funny how things work out.
Yeah.
But I thought, we talked about this. We thought the depth would be okay. And then, Nick Gates came in because they had some injuries. There was one time where they had 4 guys out.
Mm-hmm.
Fred Johnson's not a guard. He could play right or left tackle, but you just mentioned he hasn't started a lot. But he's been on teams. Toth really hasn't played very much, but he's a guy that Stout loves, obviously. That's why he's here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Becton factor now, who's definitely starting right guard. The question is, on your point, when will Steen be ready over his ankle injury, which has lingered? There's just a lot of questions.
Yeah, and can you get, this screams to have a couple of veteran interior offensive linemen if Hennessy's not going to make it and Kennard's not going to make it and Gates isn't going to make it. So can you get these guys on your practice squad? Hennessy certainly, because I don't think, he has very good tape right now.
Yep. Yeah.
We'll see about Gates. Gates, I don't know. Maybe because he was a late sign.
Is he willing? It's one of those you work it out with his agent.
Right.
He's not starting anywhere.
Right.
And he could be the top, because as you mentioned, we know this, he's a center guard, though we're told he's way better at guard than center.
Mm-hmm.
We're also told he prefers center. But bottom line is he could play either. Max Sharping, unfortunately, the guy has started. He's got some versatility.
He got playoff starts, doesn't he, Matt Sharping? I know he's been in
with
teams.
Houston,
right?
Houston, one of the two of them.
Yeah.
But it hadn't happened for him. Yeah, he's been mostly third team. So a little bit more questions than I thought, by the way. And Jason Poe is back, we should mention.
Oh, we should. Yeah. So they signed him after they cut Uzomah. Correct?
Yeah. And obviously it's perfect because he could just play in the preseason game,
Right. Dude, Sharping has played 5 playoff games and not just like appearing on a, in field goal, like 69 snaps, 80 snaps, 58 snaps.
Starting.
Yeah. He started 5 playoff games.
That many?
3 for Cincinnati the year that they went to the Super Bowl, right? No. They lose to Cincinnati. Where did they? Yeah, was it the NFC
against the Rams?
AFC Championship game? No, they lost 23-20 in 2023. So that would be what, last year?
Yes.
Yeah, they lost to. I'm looking at the playoffs.
Well, it's not good that Cincinnati didn't bring him back. I mean, that's
right.
But I don't know. It's not like he's 35 years old. I mean,
no, I'm sorry. This was the 2022 season when they played the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's a tackle in college. He's got center guard here.
Yeah.
He's a second rounder, for goodness sake, for Houston in 2019. It's only 28. So, oh well.
All right. Well, Adam, before we go on, you know how excited I am getting for the college football season. Love me some college football. And on Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the next Labor Day weekend Saturday, Penn State at West Virginia. So I'm getting very excited for the start of the Nittany Lion season. I don't know why I get let down all the time, but I do know I can get some great tickets to any Penn State game, whether it's home or road, using the Game Time app. They've got this new feature on the Game Time app. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite team play live even easier. It filters out all the fluff, right? It only focuses on the great deals for the great seats that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different seats and tickets and figuring out what you want. And it's itemized. You'll see they've got the super deal, the amazing deal, and usually these are tickets that are in really good areas of the venue at better prices than you would expect to pay. And that's only something that you can get using the Game Time app. It's one of my favorite features, along with seeing the seat where you are, the view from the seat. And of course, they give you that whole price, no hidden fees. You can just press the button there to make sure everything's included so that when you get to checkout, you're not surprised by about 1,000 other fees. That all comes with the Game Time app, along with the Game Time guarantee. They credit you 110% of the difference if Game Time isn't the lowest price. And then you got the Game Time ticket coverage. You're basically covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. And by the way, it's not just sports, comedy shows, concerts, theaters. There's anything you can get that you can get a ticket to, you can get on the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, now let's talk about some defensive topics that we would like to discuss, Adam. And really, it's the inside linebacker rotation. I think you and I really felt by now Nakobe Dean would probably usurp Zach Bond, but Zach Bond's getting those runs. I mean, it appears that this is Vic's set. Devin White and Zach Bond. Now, when you and I talk to people about this, no one's like really excited about this inside linebacker.
I would say this. Ever since the night, we talked about this last show, but we'll just give a little bit more context. Ever since the night practice where he struggled, I mean, he really was not having a good camp up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Very inconsistent, very uneven. Really good blitzer. He we mentioned the frame. He put some weight on his frame. He's never going to be 250. It's not going to happen. But good blitzer. And then, the night practice, not very good, to the point where you're like, man, he's obviously going to be on the team, but I don't know what kind of role he's going to have. Ever since then, he's been probably the best inside backer. Maybe that, he's a pretty smart kid, Nakobe. Maybe he sees that tape and goes, this is not, his coaches will tell you, this is not what we're looking for. It's a coaching phrase. When they don't want to embarrass the guy, they'll just say, hey, this is not what we're looking for.
All right.
So whatever, he saw the tape, so he's been really good since then. To your point, though, it's like Bond is the first guy up, but I could tell you in Wednesday's practice, and I've seen Dean do this before, but he did it again in this practice on Wednesday. He played the Mike and the Will. So maybe it's coming. And here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way, because Devin White's had the most snaps of any of their inside backers, is there a way that Dean could take some snaps away from White?
Yes, I think anybody can take snaps from anybody. I'm actually
group, yeah.
I think the biggest thing I'm fascinated to see, starting with the season opener against the Packers, is what kind of leash these linebackers, whoever starts. I'm going to assume it's Devin White.
Yeah, Vic. We don't know, Vic.
Exactly.
Vic
what kind of leash
do
they have with Vic Fangio, who is going to want to see results immediately? And think about it, like, Matt LaFleur is a pretty damn good play caller in this league. Some people will say he is an elite play caller, and Jordan Love played some elite football for the last, second half of last year. The Packers have some good wide receivers. They've got like I said, a really good play caller, good quarterback. They added to their O-line. They drafted Jordan Morgan. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to spend 10, 11 days knowing now that they're going to try to figure out how to get these linebackers out of position. They're going to throw a lot of different stuff at the middle of the field. And I just wonder how Zach Bond now, when it's real and he's out there playing this position he's never really played before, seeing all this stuff in front of him intended to fool him, how that's going to work out.
It's one of these, knowing coaches a little bit around the NFL and how they think. They don't have access to Eagles, training camp tape, but they watch the preseason. And, the Eagles have played their inside backers. And they know what Devin White's tape looked like last year, and it wasn't good, being nice.
Mm-hmm.
So this is on your point. This is kind of Josh Jacobs isn't Aaron Jones, who's now with the Vikings, who could by the way, could have crushed them if they were still with the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
But they have Marshawn Lloyd who could catch.
I think Josh Jacobs catches the ball pretty well, actually.
Yes, he does, but he's not explosive. I'm sorry.
No. But you may not have to be. You just got. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I have no doubts about, for the first time in a long time, this inside linebacker group's ability to get at the quarterback, have good nose for the ball, blitz. And I'm not really worried about their run defense and knowing run fits. Coverage for them is the biggest question I'm going to have.
Yep. No doubt. Well, yes, but misdirection.
That's a great point. Coverage and exotic run game.
Yeah, I mean,
misdirection, pulling guards, reverse.
They're not playing the Chargers, are they? And Greg Roman.
No. Not playing the 49ers in week 1 either.
He has the most exotic GM gave me that. He's he called sophisticated. I got this years ago. Because he does so many things no one else does.
Mm-hmm.
Funny, he came from the West Coast tree. It's odd. I don't know where. I've talked to Greg before. I don't know where the hell he came up with this run scheme. It's crazy. But
yeah.
In Atlanta, by the way, by the way. Bijan's having like Arthur Smith couldn't figure it out, but Zach Robinson can.
Mm-hmm.
Word around the team is that this has a chance to be special with Bijan.
Mm.
Got him week 2, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So it's going to be an early
Coming.
indoctrination for those.
Yep. Yeah.
And
You had to bring it up now. You had to bring it up now.
Yeah, and again, like I'm past the point of wondering about the starting rotation or the packages. I'm more about the leash. I'm wondering how long Vic's going to live with what he sees at inside linebacker before he might feel the need to switch things up.
I wonder on Bobby King, the inside backer coach. Do they have a? Do they know each? Do they work? Do they know each other?
I know. I think he's the one position coach that never worked with Vic.
Because typically, like if a coordinator, offensive defense is having is down on some players, and sometimes the position coach talk them off the ledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I brought it up. Like, what kind of gravitas this Bobby King have? I don't know. I mean, he came from the Titans, and that someone there spoke very highly of him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a job on his hands. Just don't. The key here, we'll move on in a minute, but just don't kill the team. Like we know it's coming. There'll be times when they struggle, but just don't. Try to play with some kind of consistency. They don't have to be all pro. They don't have to be pro ballers.
No, just got to play at an average level. A good.
I'd take that, dude. I would take that.
Yeah.
And I know the fans.
It's harder to do that though, right? When you are targeted. When they put we could have said, hey, if Nick Morrow and who was the other linebacker? Zach Cunningham, if they could just hold their own against the 49ers, make the plays that need to be made.
Oh.
But then you see when they run a play where they get McCaffrey wheel routed up against Morrow in one-on-one coverage and McCaffrey puts one move on it. That's not fair. Christian McCaffrey versus Nick Morrow in a passing game one-on-one? No, that's like passing camp.
Like it's funny you mentioned that game because I know the Niners were super pissed when Purdy got hurt that they had a certain specific game plan to go after certain players and it just didn't happen. Purdy got hurt. But it's like whatever they've been simmering on for like a year and a half, whatever the hell,
Yeah.
They were like, we're getting these Eagles back.
They saved their best for that.
Oh
they
my
couldn't
God.
wait.
That was the game over in the first quarter?
I think the game was over when they were in the middle of the week planning. And Kyle Shanahan goes, I got a play that's going to get Christian McCaffrey matched up against Nick Morrow one-on-one.
Oh,
I'm not trying to be mean to Nick Morrow. That's not his fault. Like,
by the way, I don't think he's in the league right now.
Oh, I thought he was with the an NFC North team. I thought he was with. No,
I'll double check. I don't think so.
I thought it was the Lions actually, like as a backup linebacker.
Is he really?
I could be completely wrong about that.
Mm.
Either way, I don't think whoever he's with, they are planning to start him for 17 games, and
the Eagles have plenty of players. That's not the issue anymore. The quantity is not the issue; it's the quality. Is our term here inside the Birds, which we come up with. It's never about numbers, it's about quality.
Yeah, Morrow's with the Bills.
Is he with the Bills? I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because we know what's his name's out.
Milano's on the comeback, right?
No, Milano got hurt again. No, he's
oh boy, got hurt again. I didn't even realize that. Jeez.
Yeah, Nick Morrow. When did he sign? Oh, he's been there since March. How did I miss it?
Yeah, he was
one of he's getting any guaranteed money. Probably not.
That would be funny, right? If you actually got guaranteed money from them. All right, so that's basically the look at inside linebacker and the bigger development on the back end. And we've foreshadowed this, felt it was coming, didn't take long. Cooper DeJean with the team working as a nickelback, and that has enabled Vic in base defense, which you're not going to see a ton of base defense, but you'll see it when he's got two corners on the field, just two, and he's not nickel. It's going to be Quinyon Mitchell on the outside.
Yep.
Opposite Darius Slay.
Here's the thing, though. By the way, Nick Morrow did get guaranteed. I can't believe it. Like after what happened.
Wow.
I mean, it's not a lot. I mean, he got a $1.5 million deal. Half of it's fully guaranteed. It's hard to believe.
That's about am I quick math? It's about $750,000.
Got it to the number. Yeah.
More than the Eagles game.
I know. Anyway, let's get back to this. So I at this point, I saw it on Wednesday on your point with Mitchell. To me, he might play more snaps than anyone. Other than Slay.
Yeah.
By the way, we need to mention Slay is healthy. Like we forget, like people get dinged him for the season he had. He had knee surgery.
Yeah.
Knee wasn't right.
Right.
So here's my one issue though. if Quinion Mitchell is your best, I get it. Like they might be just a nickel team. They won't be the only one. There are plenty of teams that nickel's basically their defense.
Mhm.
No, to me, it's just got to be by the opponent. In week one, now Matt LaFleur, you mentioned, he's a big balance coach. They want to run the ball. They'll run some 12, they'll run 11, but they're so deep at receiver with Watson, knock on wood, is healthy. Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reedy's terrific as their slot. Bo Melton for Rutgers.
Oh, don't forget Dontavian Wicks.
I was just going to get to him.
I think he's going to be a pretty good
he's
player.
terrific.
Yeah.
Yes, he's terrific. He now again, he's a backup, but they're going to get him the ball. He's a baller.
Yeah.
And you got the two tight ends, Kraft and Musgrave's the athlete of the two.
Right.
You would think if I'm Matt LaFleur, knowing how they got some guys who are not experienced, and Mitchell looks like he's going to be a stud, but he's a rookie. You would think they play more 11 than they normally would.
Mm-hmm.
Now that could make Quinion playing more inside. But you also have to look at, this is why I brought it up. Christian Watson could flat out run. He's big. He's long. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want Slay on him? No, I know that the Eagles are a zone team. But how are you going to do this? Like, and we'll talk more about this when we do week one matchup stuff. Like there got to be times when I don't care if it's thick or not. Sometimes you got to have Mitchell on the outside. You just have to, depending on the match. You just can't be so stringent.
Yeah.
That's it. We're not, okay. Like, it's like Jalen Ramsey, right? I think he did the similar thing with Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
But you also want, if you got two stud, like, let's just say, like, let's just devil's advocate. Let me ask you this question. If Mitchell was on another team and you had a similar scenario and you're going against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, wouldn't you want to play? I know Devontae could play inside, but he's more of an outside receiver. Wouldn't you want to play Mitchell on the outside going against those two guys?
Yeah.
Come on.
So
That's my point.
100%. And I do get the feeling, listening to Vic's press conferences, that he wants to be able to play Quinion Mitchell on the outside, but still be dynamic and nickel.
Said that last week.
So
Yeah.
I get the feeling that he is doing his best right now to get Cooper DeJean at that nickel spot, coached up, ready to play. At least some, by week one, he's going to play. I guess Cooper's going to play Saturday night because, to your point, Isaiah Rodgers looked good, but when you start to face week one, I mean, the Packers have really good variety of receivers. Week two is Drake London and who? They got
Darnell Mooney could flat out fly.
There's going to be a point where you're going up against two studs and you're going to want Mitchell on the outside.
You got it. That's
even when you're in nickel.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll tell you what. Rogers, great story. He might be their kickoff returner. We'll see. Ringo, I know some of the reporters are getting on him the way he looked the last couple of days. He's still a good story. He looks like he's got a chance to be a quality backup. They're good at corner.
Yeah.
Like they're fine. It's just, this is the thing with Vic, that they've had so many changes, obviously coaches and a lot of new players, different roles. The DeJean injury kind of threw them into a quagmire. Just to putting Mitchell on the inside. I talked to an area scout from another team, said he never played. He was never a inside corner. It's just he said he just didn't see, like, where DeJean showed he could play a variety of positions. He said Mitchell was not a nickel. Just this area scout said.
Right.
But hey, Vic is almost a Hall of Fame coordinator. He knows better than us. He knows football. So.
I think he did it right. I think he was smart to at least prepare himself for Rodgers on the outs and not knowing what Cooper DeJean was going to do.
Yeah. And by the way, Mitchell's been phenomenal. I just can't. I obviously, again, he didn't play in a regular season game, so we could be completely wrong about this. And we try, as you said to start the show, you got to be careful what you see in camp. I'd be stunned if he's not a stud.
Right.
He's so smart. He's stronger than you think. And I know he's more of an off-coverage corner, but he's not shied away from anything. And they asked him to do something he hasn't done before, and he kind of excelled.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's nice.
Okay, but he hasn't played a regular season game. I get it. Right. You could throw it at me. Hey, you were wrong.
No. I'm
not saying you, but the fans love to throw crap at us when we...
I'm sure. And listen, he'll probably take some lumps. I'm sure there'll be times.
He's a rookie.
Yeah. But think about what the experience in camp allows him to do, even if he's mostly an outside corner, because we've seen last year, if you remember, when the Eagles played the Vikings, right? Justin Jefferson was getting moved into the slot a whole lot for mismatch purposes and just killing the Eagles. Now you go up against a team, they may have two stud receivers, but what if they're moving one in the inside to create?
Sure, he could follow him.
All right.
And by the way,
you're going to do that. I'm going to play Mitchell at nickel and bring Rodgers out to the
By the way, I saw Mitchell do it a ton of camp, right slot, left slot.
Mm-hmm.
Also in Wednesday's practice, they had Mitchell and and Maddox in the box. It was really big nickel because they had the two safeties, Gardner Johnson and Blankenship were there, and they move Maddox in the box with Mitchell.
Mhm.
Just really interesting. All these different formations that we haven't really seen here before, and now with DeJean back, and who knows, we'll see on Sidney Brown when he's back. But this is good. When's the last time you really look at this? We've done this. This is our 7th year.
Mhm.
When's the last time you felt good about their secondary with young guys? Ever?
Right now. That's about it.
Again,
I mean,
as you
we
said.
can go back long before our podcast started where it's hard to feel this good
Well,
about
you've been
Eagles,
covering long, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, we've always mentioned Leto and Sheldon.
Mhm.
I always say
Yeah.
Leto because he told me that it's not Leto, it's Leto. He
Leto.
corrected me one time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you look at Ringo's development as it looks like he's got a chance to be a quality backup. Rogers has been a great story. By the way, he is, what is he, 24, 25? Let me see how old he is. All right, 26. He just
25, right?
he just turned 26 in January. He's no
Right.
injury history.
Right.
As a pro of note. So they're and I know he's on a 1-year deal, but at least so far he's done the job.
Mhm.
They're in really good shape here. If nobody gets hurt, knock on wood for them.
Right.
They got all sorts of things they can do, which is cool.
All right, one last thing before we get out of here.
All right.
First, we're going to pause to hear a word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, so they got the game on Saturday. I think the biggest thing, Adam, I mean, like if you're really trying to like figure out what to watch, I mean, Cooper
Yes.
Dean playing, I think will be pretty interesting. We were just talking about it. He said he wants to play. I'm assuming they're going to play him a little bit. They got to catch him up to speed a little bit.
Mhm.
He may not be defending anybody that you've ever heard of before, depending on what the Vikings do. But I mean, just to get him out there, get him playing, get him see how fluid he is, and really his understanding of that nickelback position. That's a guy. Him and Thomas Booker. I'm kind of interested in him. He's had a
Yep.
really good camp, and does he make the Eagles feel like they have to keep him?
I know because Vic talked about him. It was really interesting. Vic has been so good. Fangio, listening to him talk, it's been he's I know some people call him Jim Johnson, the next Jim, because Jim would say things he shouldn't say. He's so honest. And he'd laugh after he'd say, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And he'd just start laughing. But Vic's great. And he talked about Booker. Yeah, Booker's been a nice surprise because he's not just the nose. And that's what Vic said. You can't like Tui Pelotu can play other than nose. He could play 4-eye if you need him to. He can move around a little bit. Mustafa's strictly a nose. That hurts him. And Gabe Hall, it hasn't happened. I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I was hoping because he's got such great length. You like if you're a defensive line coach, like this is what you're looking for. He's got all the measurables, but it just hasn't happened for him.
There you go. Any last other person that you're curious about watching in this final preseason game?
All right, when we watch Saturday, I just want to see Jalix Hunt play. Now because him I want to watch. Just because we've heard so many good things about him, that he's, we heard a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's a little bit ahead of schedule, but again, he's still got ways to go.
Yep.
Let's see him.
Boy, you really want to see Tyler Steen play and play well. To be honest with you, if he doesn't,
did Steen say Tyler Steen say he's going to play? He didn't practice.
I thought he was back at practice. Wasn't he limited?
No, I don't think he worked with his ankle.
You know what? You're right.
So, yeah.
You might be right.
I'm thinking I'm going to give you one.
Okay.
And I didn't think this was even remotely possible.
Mm-hmm.
But at Wednesday's practice, all of a sudden Nick Gates is getting a lot of work. He was backing up. He got some work with the ones to fill in. He might be on my 53 on Monday. I got to look into this. I didn't think he had a prayer.
Right. By the way, Jalix Hunt was out of practice too with an oblique, so hopefully he'll be able to play.
Oh, was he? Okay, then he ain't playing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because he ain't. Then forget it. No way.
Yeah, probably not.
Obliques, by the way. If there's a baseball player's out 2 months, by the way, with oblique. NFL, you're only out your day to day.
Right.
It's your side. But Nick Gates is the guy that I want to watch. And now here's a question. Now today is Thursday morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming he's still on the team, you know where I'm going. Is it going to leave you this? Aneem Dankwa, 78.
Aneem Dankwa. Yep.
Do they see to me, because they only played him 2 special team snaps, they wouldn't let any tape get out. Obviously, it was a game. I mean,
Right.
it's just going by what they did. They didn't give him any snaps on offense.
This is a good PSA. Watch for the Eagles releasing guys over the next 2 days that they want to keep and bring back on the practice squad, and doing it now because everybody's sort of into this, like, they're not in roster scanning mode right now.
Yep.
They're just all in, like, preparing for preseason games, getting guys in their
Mhm.
own camp, trying to figure out their own numbers. So that's how you try to sneak some guys through the wire sometimes.
That's it. You nailed it. So that's what we're looking for. Like EJ Jenkins would be another guy. I assume he's healthy. If he's healthy, I want to see. Well, actually, he had a little something, but if he's playing
Mm-hmm.
now with Albert O out, that's what's crazy. Yeah, obviously Calcaterra and Goddard they're on an island,
Mm-hmm.
but Albert O's hurt. Armani Rogers would be a good guy for the practice squad. They got kind of numbers issue at tight end. That's why it was kind of like, okay, boy, they really not think it was Uzomah could help them.
I'm gonna have to do a search in every single Andrew DeCecco observations from this year, all 16 of them or whatever it was, and see if Armani Rogers was ever mentioned. I'm not quite sure he ever
Well, he
was.
signed late. He signed. He was claimed off waivers by Washington
Right.
earlier in August. But I got it. Nia Smith, duh. Nia Smith.
Oh, it's a great one.
Go.
Great
Let's
one.
go.
He's starting to stack some better practices. It
Better
would be
this
really
past week.
helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, if he could get in there and do well.
He was one of my guys for training camp because I know he was over the stress fracture, just based on the scouting people we talked to around the league. So excited, and then he just started dropping passes, which, by the way, was not in his scouting report.
I know, it's crazy.
I don't know. So anyway, that's it.
All right, good stuff. Next time you hear from us, it'll be a really awesome podcast. It'll be 53 man. So that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.